G'day guys, so it's a meeting review this time for the 11th of June at Randwick. 6 metre rail, and the fence was probably not ideal. You know, a couple, probably 2 or 3 metres off. Anywhere from there to wider was pretty solid. Most races were sort of pace dictated, so it was a pretty fair track all around, not too strong a bias anywhere. And overall, pretty interesting meeting with a little bit to come out of it. So we start with the first race for the 2-year-olds over the 1,000 metres. Pretty solid pace. They've gone out sort of 4 lengths quick and come home pretty solid for and it was probably the strongest race of the day. As it turned out, the late scratching of Hair Trigger wasn't ideal for us. We sort of got on it at good odds, and it was well backed into favourite and came out after it reared in the gate. So interesting race with the 2-speed horses. Conchita, Starcrossed, fighting it out most of the way, and a couple of horses that we'll have a good look at in For a Dig and Sweet Chestnut are two that probably can go on to win pretty soon as well. So we started up. The For a Dig's drawn wide here, gets restrained. Conchita, the eventual winner. Star Stealer is inside in the black colours, and the other horse that we're going to keep an eye on back here is Sweet Chestnut, who also settles back. Sweet Chestnut here, For a Dig, Star Stealer, Conchita. What I would have liked to have seen from O'Hara here early was to actually allow the speed horse to cross and go and sit outside, and I think it would have made the difference to this horse. It's a bit of a hard going thing, and I'd much rather see it outside than inside and being dictated to. For a Dig's obviously been restrained right out of the race now, and Sweet Chestnut's back with it. It does lack a bit more pace than For a Dig, but they do run into trouble, whereas these two just free roll and have it between themselves throughout. For a Dig being held up. Sweet Chestnut sort of a little bit lost. Will improve. But these two control and kick away and never really look in much danger of anything getting near them. You can see the two styles of jockey, and Huey just gets more out of Conchita basically over the look at the bigger difference in thing. I swap the jockey, swap the results for mine there. For a Dig's run very well considering how far restrained out of it early it was, and Sweet Chestnut's a horse that I definitely think can improve with probably a jockey change and not much else. It's a horse that's ready to win. For a Dig's definitely a horse that's ready to win, and both these horses are sort of 1,000 metres suited little speedsters that can win again in similar circumstances. It's a pretty solid race, and definitely the first 4 over the line are horses that can win soon. Even the B Murray horse, probably back a grades, run a race here as well. So a good race to follow a few horses out of. Oops. Race 2, they've gone out sort of quick again here, probably 7 lengths quicker than you'd expect to the 600 metres for this grade, and come home fairly moderately, so there's a fair bit of pressure on early here. You had the horses backing up, Harlem Lady seeking asylum, and then Elu was not backing up, but was coming off the solid first win. Rustic Melody went around sort of $23, so a bit of a surprise winner, and did improve sharply with great ride, as you'll see. The one horse here that is really starting to disappoint and did throw a shoe in the race, but I can't see that as a big explanation for another failure from Pioneering. It's just really struggling, and I'm not sure where they go with it from here. Distraught is just a horse, and Eklund's probably found out class-wise. So this interesting part from the start for me is you'll see Elaluz actually, they try and go forward and put it in the race and then restrain, which is nothing I like to see. You see he shows a bit of vigour early before grabbing it, which is just never easy for a horse to overcome. And now he's going forward again. So he's gone forward, back forward to find a position. Eventually finds a pretty nice spot, but he's done a lot of work to get there. It's never easy for a horse to do that. Horses we're looking at sort of Seeking Asylum, the winner Rustic Melody, Harlem Lady, Power Line, is it, or is this it's sorry, Electric Power, and they're the main sort of things in the finish. They are going hard. LaField's in a position it doesn't like to be in, likes to dictate, not be dictated to, and ends up getting a check and beaten a long way, but all three of these are beaten a long way. Seeking Asylum, ridden a little bit impatiently for mine. You can't say it's a bad ride because it's sort of, you could expect these three to fall over, but he eventually gives the run to Rustic Melody and Abdallah, who sneaks up the fence. She's a pretty one-pace type, and once she's stolen a bit of a break on him, she was always going to be very difficult to run down. El Lou in behind here gets taken off a bit by Jess Taylor, which costs more ground to El Lou and loses momentum and balance. Pioneering got the run through, and so did Harlem Lady. They've had their chance. Harlem Lady probably on that backup looks the winner here, but does flatten a bit late. I would say that El Lou's a bit stiff to lose that race. If he's probably ridden quite early or has any luck early, probably wins. It's had everything go against it, but the great ride from Abdallah and really showing a bit of urgency here when he's pinched that inside run to push through and then get off the fence. He's won the race there. He's just too strong. Not a lot to be learned here, and it is sort of a pretty average race. I doubt they'd be backing Harlem Lady up again. She's one I could still be interested in next time with a few weeks between runs. El Lou's flying, and even Electric Power was not a bad run. Does have pace on to suit here. It was a pretty solid time, a solid pace. Like they've gone out pretty hard, so was a little bit flattered by that, but still ran quite well considering how far it got back. It's not its usual go. So the winners had things to suit. Second horses had every possible chance through the middle, maybe a little bit flat off that run last week, and the third horse had things against and ran okay. They'd be the main three out of this race. Not much to be learnt. LaField probably can be forgiven, but it has been beaten a long way at both times this season, so it's very hard to sort of get a line on how well it is going. Race 3, the highway race, and again some funky rides here and misfortune to a couple in betting. Portatorio was well fancied. The winner was well back late, and probably I overlooked it certainly, and a bit of a mistake in hindsight, even though it was very well ridden and didn't get the right run here. It was a horse that should have been found in the race, considering there was a lot of weakness to a few, like Bowie's Babe. There was Clevedon House around the $8 mark that probably had things up against them here, but just have a look. They go out and come home pretty similar. It's a pretty solid sort of tempo here. These sort of times represent time to the 600, then the last 600, so the higher the time, 100's about par for that class, and over this distance, and sort of anything over and below signifies how fast and slow they've gone. So they've gone out similar to come home here, and the race is pretty solid. So Portatorio, you'll see, misses the kick here, the favourite. The other one I want to take notice of is Mossman's Gold, who jumps well, but never given any sort of a dig or anything early or a kick to pressure it to get with the tempo of the race, which is so important with these 1,000-metre races, that you try and get with the tempo, even if you're not leading or being. You've really just got to get going with it. If you're restrained out of a race early, it's very hard to pick up and catch these speedsters. So you see how quickly it loses ground because it hasn't been allowed to or asked to get with the tempo of the race. I definitely think it could have been in this region inside Portatorio, could have been in this region here, which could have made a big difference at the end. As you'll see, it runs well. Portatorio wide, no cover throughout, probably not a 1,000-metre horse, but did have a bit of class on, or potential class on this field, and nothing goes right for it. The winner gets the right run in behind these sort of weakish leaders. I was surprised they took the sit on Art and Ollie, but again, he's probably another horse that wants 11-1200 and maybe a little bit easier and can control the race. We'll have a look at In Vienna in the straight. I thought that was a bit strange what went on with it. But things just unfold for 3 Sheets, who is a genuinely, probably at least a midweek grade, city grade horse. So when it got anywhere near the lead over 1,000 metres, was allowed to go through its gears. It was never going to be held out. We'll have a look at In Vienna in more detail in a second. This horse here, Mossman's Gold's going really well. It was the one restrained out of it early. Portatorio, no luck and battles on well. Art and Ollie, totally not suited the way the race was run, and it was ridden, and it can improve. So Mossman's Gold's finished off the race well. Portatorio, nothing, went okay. The winner's pretty soft win in the end, and he's a pretty underrated horse. I just want to go back. Greg Ryan was questioned regarding In Vienna, and I'm not saying he's done anything untoward here, but there is something to look at going forward with his mounts. If you'll see his left hand here, about now, there, he changes his grip on the horse, and you'll see that he grabs a tighter rein on it, and then tends to start doing these big whip motions, and I'm not sure whether many of them make contact. A lot of horses with Greg Ryan, he is kind to them over the concluding stages, and you see he does seem to have a pretty good grip on it with the left hand, so these horses can improve, so it's something to look out with Greg Ryan. When he's beaten in a race, he does tend to look after them a bit more than other jockeys, and In Vienna is definitely one that can improve sharply without surprising. So again, it's a pretty solid race, and I think Mossman's Gold definitely can be followed. Portatorio sort of 1,200 metres where it can get closer to the lead easier early. In Vienna, in a similar sort of race, it's a pretty adaptable horse, can improve quickly. Art and Ollie back to its right grade, 1,200. All can be followed. 3 Sheets can be followed in anything up to 1,200. He's a solid horse, so quite a few to be followed. I think these second, third, fourth runners probably a little bit flattered by their finishing position and have gone as well as they can. Race 4, El Novio, they've gone out the fastest pace of the day here, sort of 12 lengths quick to the 600, so you're expecting them to stop, and they've come home very slowly, so I'd be very wary of the form here. I wouldn't be looking to be too positive. Colonel Custer sets up the fast tempo. I'm not going to spend too much time on this race. Sonorius, no luck again. All these horses have worked pretty solidly. The winners here, El Novio, Storm System, and Not a Gypsy, all racing together in sweet spot. Ones back here are quite disappointing, really. They've had their chance. Destination Tucson, Spanish Stride and the rest. So we move to kind of the turn. El Novio possibly goes a little bit early. I don't know why he took off so early, especially considering the fast pace. They were always going to fall over, but he flushes Storm System out and they make their runs wide and early, whereas Not a Gypsy sort of gets held up a bit, which could only have helped it. Saves a bit of ground and gets to a part which was okay around the Greats' heels. So it's the one that's had its chance really to run these two down, who've had to sustain a longer, wider run, and it's just a bash fest down the straight. And El Novio had the better grounding fitness wise and sticks its nose out. I thought Storm System may have just been crowded up and not had its chance as much as the other two in the straight, but I saw the head on and there wasn't much in it. I think it was a pretty soft, even race and not much that you're going to learn a lot from. These three horses are obviously going okay and taking advantage of their chance. The three behind have just whacked away. I think Hersley got to the trip pretty quickly in its preparation. So if you're going to be soft on any of them, it's probably it, but I doubt any of these Beaten Brigade are going that well, or they're going too much higher grade-wise. Pretty soft race. Moving on to the next sprint for the 3-year-olds. 1100 metres, a pretty even tempo they've gone throughout here. Yuma Desert wins the race. There were a couple of disappointing well-back runners in Badajoz and Motor, who both look to have their chance here, and the Swoopers come wide here for the first time in Sampere. Dark Eyes, they've run well. I thought Copite ran pretty well outside of her grade. And they're the main ones to look at. Good little ride here from Adkins. Surprised that UA didn't push forward on Dark Eyes there, but obviously they had a plan. Adkins takes advantage of the others all taking a bit of a hold, and what I like about it, his ride, is that he doesn't pull up in front, he just lets it roll and allows the horse to keep its momentum. Dark Eyes is a good first up effort here. Doing a lot of work, gets shuffled wide. So Badajoz and Motor are the two that look really dangerous here and don't do a lot. These are the two closers. Sampere and Copite's just an interesting one to watch if it drops back to its right grade, stays hard against the fence and actually picks the bit up again late, and it's a solid little race. Yuma Desert's flying, the form around has been great, and she's just a little pocket rocket. Opens up a really solid break, and if anything these two hide a bit of its solid merit late when they shut the margin down, but it's never really in doubt. Copite's not a really obvious one, but I just like how it stayed hard in that fence area and doesn't shirk its task, gives a real solid kick, and she's a roly-poly little horse that tends to thrive on racing, so should be ready to go again next time in an easier race. No real excuses for the beaten. Bitburg's going terrible, the rest of them are all pretty much had their chance there, so I'm not too excited to be following anything back. Sampere's going well. Dark Eyes first up, can obviously improve, and made a long wide run there with a good gap behind it. Plenty of merit. The winner's gone well. In a solid race. 2 mile race with a genuine tempo. No surprise really to see the Waller second stringer, who was probably the class, or was the class of the race, improved sharply. Really not going to spend a lot of time on this race. Not much point. Zatopaz, runs his honest race. The winner's well handled. Saves ground, probably didn't matter what happened on it, it was just going to win. The well back stablemate, every possible chance. No surprise to see some huge margins opening here between them. Not much to win there. I think we'll just move straight on. Another weird race here where they've gone out sort of 14, 12 lengths slow to the 600 metre mark. Toucan Shoe was left in front. Kobe was questioned regarding his leading tactics and said that the horse copped a squeeze here and got over racing, and that was why he decided to take the front. It was probably a winning move in the end. Thought there were a couple of good runs here. The Sales, obviously I've got an opinion of this horse and think he's a genuine black type horse in the future. The winner is a solid horse, there's no doubt. I wouldn't think he'd be out of place in a black type race. Much happens to the turn. The Sale gets going nice and early. Obviously the slow pace was really against it. A really poor ride I thought here on Dewar, just given absolutely none considering how slow they've gone up front and no effort at all put into getting into the race or getting onto the back of anything. Sits back there and really finishes the race off nicely. The winner's well handled, where he looks gone, but he's being cuddled and comes back to win. After these two have spent a lot of petrol getting up outside him and having to sustain a 600-700 metre sprint. To my eye, Dewar should have been on the back of this horse for sale and already going through, whereas she's now started exposing it and trying to get it to wind up, which it's not a sit sprint horse. Notice how far it is behind the sale, probably 5 or 6 there, and it really does close the race off. Tough effort here. This horse never looks comfortable and never looks the winner, but always finding. This horse has only had to make a sprint, and here's Dewar really winding up late. Cut a few lengths off those leaders, which is a good effort considering the pace. I think this horse is going okay too. Anthony's Best. Probably a grade lower than this to break through, but he's going well enough to win. And all four basically in their right grade. I think Dewar's up to this grade. I think the Sale Vassal will go on to better, and Toucan Shoe is definitely a black type horse as well. So I think these two are definitely the standout horses. Dewar's ready to win it in good form, and so is Anthony's Best. Race 8, the listed race, best race of the day on paper, and they go out pretty steady, come home pretty quick. It's not a bad race. Failures from Kuro, just not racing best at his best, and that's about it. Everything else sort of kind of runs up to it. The Cordon Bleu was ridden a bit close for mine. You can see that, and the rest run pretty to what people expected. Oxford Poet runs pretty solid race, but stops a bit quicker than I would have thought. So not a lot of surprises here. There is one horse that I did give a rough hope to at odds here that I thought would be on pace with the blinkers on first up, especially after how solid intent they showed. Hang on, let's get rid of this. He's Hidden Warrior, restrained right out of the race. The softish sort of tempo up front in this sort of grade was never going to suit this horse, which is not a sit sprinter. So, one to keep an eye on. Oxford Poet's basically had his chance. Danish Twist has come from back here. She is a sit sprinter. She can sustain a really solid last 600, and she is flying. Back in trip, this is a hell of a training performance to get this horse to keep such freshness in its legs. Look at it, it's taking a gap willingly. Just loving racing, loving winning. Hits the line clearly better than anything else in the race. And just another really strong win. You got the two wet trackers up the inside. Oxford Poet, honest, but you're really a little bit limited. And the flying mare, it's just putting him away. Here's the run I'm interested in, Hidden Warrior. It's a bit of a punishing horse to follow, but it's not its go. Look how far behind it is, with no real urgency shown, and it finishes the race off nicely. Change of tactics and it could be a dangerous horse in a probably a grade below or similar grade. For it to go past a few horses here late is a good effort, because it's not a known closer. It's a more on pace sprinting type. That was the race there. Danish Twist again. I just can't believe how well the horse is going. And Hidden Warrior, the roughie. Lucky last. Even tempo. A few strange rides here. Cosmopole, very weird. Starshaft doesn't have a lot of luck, but from the inside gate couldn't expect it. Super Tycoon misses the kick, gets well back, and is quite a good run out of its grade. All Summer Long doesn't have too much luck. These two pretty much get well suited, and Shadow Lord with the blinkers on obviously targeted this race and runs well enough to get the result in a close photo. Icon Rock was a strange little ride, but we'll have a look. Not a lot to be learned here, and it was a pretty average race overall, so we're not looking to be too positive with it. Super Tycoon's one of the ones that finishes off. Cosmopole strangely restrained again. Not sure, he's in a bit of an awkward position there, but to restrain so far out of it was interesting, especially when you consider this is Icon Rock, which is a bad back marker. Selectify is an on-pace horse, but not an overly noted fast horse. Burning Passion's definitely not a fast horse, neither is Grundazita all summer long. So, of all these horses, Cosmopole probably has the most early pace, and the way he's been ridden, terrible. I did read the steward's report, and there were some strange comments made pertaining to Shadow Lord with the blinkers on going forward, like it's never been an on-pace horse in its career. I'm not a fast horse, that's for sure. So this horse, with any sort of dig, I think could have probably crossed them with ease, and it's been dragged out of the race. See how slow they're going. Sweet Kiss is a hard-going sort of horse that normally everyone would have expected to lead this race comfortably. They tried to restrain it early, but she basically pulls away to the front. Keeps a little bit of pressure on up front. Icon Rock does look like it's had a decent run, but I don't like the way it was ridden. It's definitely just a desperate back marker that needs its chance. Invitations gets a saloon run through. Avanarco, Shadow Lord, Super Tycoon, Cosmopole, again another just a weird ride. Starshaft's an interesting one, gets checked out of it all summer long. But again, I'm not looking to be too positive on any real horse, especially staying or going up in this grade. The winner's had every possible, taken forever to do anything. These two horses have had every possible up on a softish or average tempo. I do have some respect for Super Tycoon because it has raced so far back and it is up in grade. It can go back in grade from a softer gate or a softer race and definitely improve. Avanarco a little bit one-paced off that run, probably looking for a little bit further. Grundy, a bit of a non-winner. Cosmopole back here, just I don't know whether it's a forgive run or the horse is going terrible or not. It's just very hard to add it up what they're doing with this. It was a big run first up after being restrained. Obviously hasn't run on with the same gusto here, but just a weird ride. Invitations at its level. Sweet Kiss a little bit unlucky as all summer long, but again not looking to be too positive on them, even though they've had not every chance. Grundy every chance. Burning Passion ridden out of its comfort zone, but and pretty solid. Looks like it's might be back on track. Shadow Lord can't knock it, even though it's had every possible. That's his sort of level. I wouldn't be too keen on following him either, but he's very consistent. I think Super Tycoon's probably the one to follow if there is any horse out of the race. Back in grade possibly a little bit, and if he draws a more sympathetic barrier or finds a race where it can easily get on pace, I think it'll finish a race right off next time out. So quite an interesting meeting, a few interesting rides and a few horses to follow, a few horses maybe to put the line through, and again hope everyone got something out of it. Thanks guys.